Thank you, Mr. President. The only item originating from public service for this meeting is an amendment to the Recreation Department risk management policy. And in large part, the revisions deal with situations in which an individual is an upstanding member of the community, would like to participate and volunteer with some of our Avon Lake recreation activities, but for whatever reason in that person's past may have had some minor indiscretion with the law. For instance, perhaps had a very minor incident of marijuana possession in the 70s, but now 40 years later is being prevented from volunteering with our recreation programs because of this policy. This policy will provide some discretion to the recreation director to allow individuals like that, after a thorough investigation, an understanding of what that individual's history and past may be, to participate in volunteering with the Avon Lake programs.
This legislation here basically is going to be a registry where once you fill out a form for the Do Not legislation, you will get a sticker from the city that says basically those type of sales individuals are not allowed to come to your door and knock on it. There'll be a registry that the city will have. They'll have a name and address. When these vendors come in to sell things, they will get a list of addresses only. I know Mrs. Fenderbosh is concerned about names. We're only going to give them a list of addresses that these homes you don't go and knock on. Both Bay and Avon have this. They have about 1,000 to 1,300 people, which I showed at the safety committee, and they've been pretty effective in terms of that. But in a lot of cases, when you have seniors and you have widows and you have moms at home with kids and you have these type of people aggressively trying to sell things, they do get kind of concerned about it. So if you have a sticker, again, on your door or window that basically has that, the city seal will be on it and the ordinance will be on it, you can basically tell them quite simply, you're breaking the law, you need to leave my property. And if they don't, and the police do come, it's a trespass. That's the violation that we had put on this. In addition to that, at a request by Mr. Koss, we added language on page 3 that basically the Do Not does not cover the charitable organizations like the Kiwanis or Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, or school groups or religious purposes as well, nor political activity. It does not cover that. They still have access to come up to your door, knock on it, and from a charitable part with that, we didn't want to go that far with it. Our basic thing was to deal with the vendors. In addition to that, all vendors who are approved by the city will come around with lanyards in the future. So if you don't see a lanyard on an individual that's knocking on if you're aren't part of the registry, you got somebody knocking on your door, they're not having a lanyard on it. They should have a lanyard with a city approval code on it. And if you don't see that, then they haven't gone through the proper channels.
The fire department is in need of replacing engine number 4, which has been in service since 1996. And this was an item that the fire department was looking to purchase more towards the end of the calendar year. However, new Chief Jeremy Betza last month brought it to our attention that if the City of Avon Lake chose to purchase this needed vehicle earlier, we would receive a 3% discount. He was also able to negotiate a better price on a trade-in for the current vehicle. Both of those were approximately $18,000 for the trade-in and the 3% discount. So the numbers that were brought to the safety committee to purchase this early, had we not done the 3% early purchase on this and had we not got the money on the trade-in, it would have been approximately $600,000 to purchase this new fire truck. However, with the work that Chief Betza has done on this and what the safety committee passed, the new truck total will be $554,045. So it's a significant savings to the city. With this past week's storms, I had a lot of compliments towards Joe Wright and his Public Works Department on how well the streets were kept in comparison to the surrounding communities. So I know it's hard for them to keep up, but I heard a lot from the people in my area, Joe, that your guys did a great job. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Wright?
I just wanted to make a quick mention. Next week, I know last week when I wasn't here, Don Johnson from Kimball was here to introduce himself. Some information was passed out to council members since that last meeting. I had a lengthy conversation with him last week in reference to the fact that he's going to be coming to the Public Service Committee meeting on the 28th to basically go over the bid that they put in for the trash consortium and talk about some differences. And I'll just kind of highlight a couple that are going to be changes that the residents will need to get used to. One of them is that trash will be collected up to 5 days a week, which is different than our current single day. We did manage to add an additional month on each end for yard waste collection. So they'll be picking them up a month earlier. So they'll be picking them up in March versus April, and they'll be picking up yard waste through the month of December. So that's based upon resident concerns and comments and the way the weather's been and so forth. So those are added services that are different. And the fact that they're going to be doing bulk in a different manner than we've done in the past. So we'll get into much more details about that as things go on, but I ask all council members if they can be at the Public Service Committee meeting to hear directly from Mr. Johnson as we roll this out to the residents. And they're going to have a very aggressive campaign to the residents to inform them of the switch over, how they're going to do it, because the current contract with Republic ends the end of March, and as of April 1st, this will be all by Kimball. So there'll be some rollouts as far as the Republic carts getting picked up, the Kimball carts being delivered. So we're going to be doing a lot of outreach, and I'll be talking about this even more at the ward meetings coming up in February. So 3 companies bid on trash service for the cities and townships. Only 2 of them included prices for yard waste. Kimball was the lowest and best bid in reference to the combination of trash and yard waste. Is a comparison, the other bidder, Rumkey, was at $150 a quarter for trash and yard waste collection. So needless to say, that is a huge increase compared to us. And Republic Services didn't even include yard waste in the bid from the consortium at all. So to go with them, I think the Avon and Avon Lake were both in the situation where, that bid was something that we weren't even going to consider because we can't not provide that service to the residents. So
the city of Avon Lake did commission a study by URS in 2005 and did hold, there were 3 public meetings, and the turnout in it was July and August of 2005 wasn't as large as you might expect, but they did get input for not only Veterans Park, but also Miller Road Park and also Walker Road Park. But specifically, we're talking about Veterans Park. And if I could line this up here, there we go. This is a shot of Veterans Park before we purchased these 2 properties here. One of the objectives and recommendations of the report was to acquire and get as much green space as possible, open up the view to the lake. We certainly did that by tearing down these 2 homes and by tearing down this garage here. So that's one issue I think that's very important. And then they came up with this proposal. Now this is still on the parcel without the 2 homes that existed here. And therefore the park extends about here, which is Beachdale, comes along here. Now without those 2 parcels here, there was a suggestion and recommendation to put a gazebo right here. Notice that the garage is gone, but the proposal for a gazebo from this report from 2006, we have the gazebo now just a little bit further south here. And it's about 100 and some feet, 105 feet, I think, from the lake house, and I pasted off from the property line about right here. It's another 105 feet, and it's about 45 feet from the bank. This is a very basic gazebo. It is about on a pad that's about 8 inches, Joe, above the ground. So it is not elevated as the gazebo is at Veterans at Miller Road. It has no railings or anything in it. It basically are the columns and you've got the roof.
Now, I just want to point out that the Parks and Recreation Commission has reviewed this in two separate ways. And I always struggle when I hear surveys used because they're unscientific. You know, you never quite are sure of the sample size and the people responding. But one thing we can be certain of is that various entities and bodies in the city are designed to represent the interests of both geographic areas and the city as a whole. And the Parks and Recreation Commission is one of those bodies. There are 5 members that are specifically identified to represent the various wards of the city, as well as representatives from other stakeholders, the tree commission, city council, and the school. And that body, before I was on it and while I was on it, has reviewed that issue. In specific, it has reviewed the gazebo that is being proposed by the mayor and recommended that we move forward with it, taking into account the considerations of residents of Ward 3. And in addition, that body is charged with maintaining the master plans of the parks themselves. So each few years, they periodically evaluate the master plans of the parks themselves, update them, revise them as necessary, and in their judgment, a structure like this should be placed in the master plan for the Veterans Memorial Park. And when the main master plan is finalized in a few years, I would anticipate that all of those mini master plans for the parks are included in the larger master plan. I would just hope that the Planning Commission hears that the body that is directly charged with responsibility for providing guidance and advice in the parks is in favor of that, and they understand that it seems like the mayor seems to be indicating that the Planning Commission will be made aware of that. So that.